Now, this is the neighborhood of the Leaning Tower of New York. Now, you can see we're very close to the South Street Seaport and the highway, and that's great. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful neighborhood, except this building is slightly leaning. And that's the building right there. It's leaning by 5 inches, but it's enough where people who paid money to buy it are saying, or buy parts of it, are saying, look, we don't want it. And there's like a big discussion about what's going on with that building. It's right near the highway, so it's beautiful, but it's a big hassle right now for everyone. And again, this is the neighborhood around where that building is. A lot of development going on, so it's a perfect location. It's just, unfortunately, there's a problem with the building. They're gonna fix it. It's just a matter of figuring out how and when, who's gonna pay for it. That's one of the big dilemmas with anything like that, when mistakes, when things happen that aren't expected. Things like that, where you have a building that's leaning, creates its own dilemma. And you can see this whole area around here. So New York is home to a mix of different towers. Twisting towers, curving towers, and uneven stacked towers. But as of March of this year, we can add one thing to that list, a leaning tower. And this tower here is that leaning tower. Now, it's a 58-story skyscraper, and the contractor sued the tower's developer after the subcontractor discovered the building was tilting 3 inches to the north. The contractor alleged that the developer allowed for the tower to be built on a shoddy foundation. The developer, however, filed suit to distract from its inability to complete the project. Both parties, the contractor and the developer, have terminated their mutual contract. Now, the tower, known as 1 Seaport or 161 Maiden Lane, stands at the tip of Lower Manhattan along the East River. Now, you could actually see the East River right here, right next to the South Street Seaport. It's a beautiful location for the tower, just beautiful. I mean, you can't get any better than it is. It's like right next to everything. And allegedly, when it's finished, it's going to be a residential skyscraper. Now, most towers don't lean. Now, there is a tower in San Francisco, the Millennium Tower, that is leaning, and northwest since the beginning of 2009. And the issues underlying the Millennium Tower in San Francisco and this Maiden Lane Tower here are strikingly similar. The Millennium Tower developers said that the nearby construction workers pumped too much water out of the ground, causing the sand to compress and the tower to sink. That's the tower in San Francisco. That same developer has been accused of failing to anchor the structure to bedrock to support its weight. In the case of this tower, 1 Seaport or Maiden Lane, the developers allegedly ignored the recommendations of a geotechnical report, which said to drive piles into the ground before laying the foundation. Now, the top 2 engineering firms assessed the building and found no safety issue, however. Now, according to the spokesman, the leaning is more of a misalignment issue, and that can be addressed with a slight redesign of the building curtain wall, which is already being installed, that curtain wall being the glass. And the problem is that there's a lawsuit about who's going to pay for all this. That resulted in tens of millions of dollars in costs and additional delays. Now, the developer and the contractors are really nervous about this because it doesn't reflect well on them. And Before this lawsuit was filed, however, between the developer and the contractor, the tower had already endured a highly public scandal when one construction worker was seriously injured, and that was negative attention for the skyscraper. Now, typically you have things like this happen where you have a tower, people say it should be better, but it gains its own significance. Like, look at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. How many people go to visit it? And this tower also will have its own value, though we can't assess what the value is going to be. Look, I'm sure if someone sold one condo for $1, someone would buy it. $10,000, someone would buy it. $100,000, I bet you people would buy it $100,000. The question is, at what price will they buy to be able to live there, and how long will they need to not worry about something? I'm sure it's no problem. Leaning Tower of Pisa has been leaning for hundreds of years, and anyone that buys into a tower, you know, will be able to be there for their generation, a couple more generations. It's just a question, I think, more of who's going to pay the costs of fixing things. That's the big issue, and that's always a dilemma. But it's a great area. I mean, I'm sure they're going to get something for it. It's just a matter of who's going to pay for it. And everyone wants to get the most, but right now, it's not the best time to sell anyway, I think, because people are not going to want to be in a big city, so they're better off waiting anyway, a year, 2 years. But the problem that happens with any development is you have fixed income costs or fixed costs that you have to pay. You have to pay the taxes, you have to maintain everything, you have to pay for the construction loan. The construction loans are temporary, so that's a bigger dilemma. And so with a temporary construction loan, when time is up, I doubt whether the construction loan, person who gave the construction loan is going to decide to roll over and allow the construction loan to continue. But you can see all the nice things that are in the area of the tower. So the tower has so many things going for it. It's just that it's leaning, and because it's leaning, I think very few people would want to be the first ones to step up and buy. Of course, if the price is right, they will do that. But the question is, what is the right price? Here we're able to see another view of the building that's actually leaning. As I said, it's not that big of a deal, I think. I think it's livable. It's just that if you're buying apartments for very high premiums, everything has to be perfect. And financing would mean that everything would have to be perfect too. Otherwise, I don't think lenders would want to finance something that's imperfect. Here we'll take a closer look at the construction. And a still closer look. I'm sure there's people out there that want to see this closer look, just to see what the construction looks like, what they're trying to do. Now again, just to reiterate, the issue is that it's leaning a little bit. At first 3 inches, and now in 2020, a little bit more. And the issue is the foundation. And And here we'll just take another angle of this Leaning Tower of New York. I'm sure in 10 or 20 years this will be famous. It's just that it's not famous right now. And an even closer look of the construction. Just another view of the building from a slightly different angle. The building next to it is complete. It's another building. It looks like it's part of the tower, but it's actually not.